I never imagined that a quiet Sunday morning could spiral into utter chaos, the kind that ends with flashing lights outside your house and officers knocking at your door. Especially not when I'm the one in uniform, the person who usually responds to calls like this. Yet, there I was, caught off guard, because Karen from the HOA had decided that her teenage son had some innate right to drive my truck. Spoiler alert, he absolutely did not. It started innocently enough, or at least it appeared to. I was standing in my driveway, savoring the first sip of my coffee, the warmth rolling down my throat as I soaked in the calm of the early suburban morning. My 2020 cherry red Ford F-150 sat gleaming beside me, reflecting the sunlight like a polished jewel. That truck isn't just transportation, it's pride, it's care, it's something I maintain meticulously, because it represents years of hard work, and a little slice of personal joy in an otherwise routine life. My day was simple. Paperwork at the station, a quick grocery run, maybe a nap before the work week hit me like a freight train. Peaceful, ordinary. Then, as if summoned by fate itself, Karen appeared. You know, the type, the sharp-heeled, perfectly dressed, meticulously coiffed type who seems to radiate authority the moment they step onto the pavement. Her designer handbag swung against her hip like a weapon of mass intimidation. And that expression, the one that screams, "I run this street, and you will obey," was locked firmly in place as she approached my truck, eyes fixed on me with laser precision. "Can he drive it?" she asked, sweet on the surface, but sharp enough underneath to slice through any notion of casual conversation. I froze for a heartbeat, stunned, not by the question, but by the audacity. I knew Karen's reputation: strict, controlling, prone to blowing even trivial neighborhood disagreements into escalating dramas. And here she was, expecting me to hand over my personal truck to her teenage son without hesitation or explanation. I took a breath. "No," I said, firm, polite, and unyielding. "He can't. This is my personal vehicle, and I'm not comfortable letting him drive it." You'd think that would settle it. You'd think that the rational, reasonable answer would suffice. But Karen doesn't do no. Her eyes narrowed, her lips pressed into a thin line, and in an instant, she produced her phone, waving it like a white flag signaling war. "I'm calling the cops," she declared, as if I'd committed some cardinal sin against humanity itself. Here's the twist, the part that made this entire Sunday morning surreal. I am the police chief. I answer calls like this. I usually handle these situations with calm, measured authority, and yet, in that driveway, the universe seemed to be playing a cruel joke. I was suddenly the target of a complaint in my own community. Caught in the absurd theater of suburban entitlement, tension started to thicken, almost tangibly. Neighbors peeked from windows, sensing the storm about to erupt. Karen's son stood beside her, smug and self-satisfied, as if the world owed him a truck for the sheer virtue of his existence. And there I was, caught in a high-stakes negotiation that would test every ounce of patience and authority I possessed, all without letting it escalate into an HOA versus police chief showdown. And then came the moment that pulled the whole thing over the edge. Before I could even inhale fully, sirens cut through the serene suburban morning. My first thought was that Karen had, indeed, called the police. But then reality struck. I am the police chief. And yet, there they were. Two patrol cars rolling slowly into the street. Lights flashing. Officers uncertain whether they'd been dispatched to a petty neighborhood dispute or something far more serious. Karen's face lit up as if she'd just won a jackpot. She practically skipped toward the street, pointing dramatically at me. Her voice carried loud enough to reach every neighbor on the block. "He won't let my son drive his truck. You have to do something," she shouted, phone waving in the air like a magical instrument capable of summoning instant justice. The officers stepped out cautiously, scanning the scene, unaware they were dealing with the chief of police herself. I recognized that mix of confusion and silent, "What the hell is happening?" that flashes across a cop's eyes when a routine call goes sideways. I raised a hand, projecting calm. "Gentlemen, it's fine. There's no crime here," I said, forcing steady authority into my voice. Karen, however, was undeterred. Her glare sharpened, disbelief and indignation blending into a potent storm. "He refused. He's the police chief, but that doesn't mean he can just deny my son. She sputtered, her composure unraveling with every word. Her son, emboldened by his mother's theatrics, wore that trademark teenage grin, the one that says, "I see an opportunity, and it's mine." The officers glanced between us, silently questioning whether they were witnessing their chief in an escalating suburban standoff. I exhaled silently. Karen wasn't backing down, not gracefully, not quietly, and I knew exactly how to handle a stubborn adversary. She took a dramatic step toward my truck, hand raised, as if she could magically conjure the keys into her grip. I calmly placed a hand on the hood, firm but non-aggressive. "It's not happen," I said, voice level, unwavering. Simple, clear, final. Her expression shifted rapidly: shock, then disbelief, then outright fury. She began muttering threats of complaints, HOA escalation, accusations of abuse of power, all in a crescendo of suburban drama. The air grew thick with tension, and every second I hesitated, the situation threatened to spiral further. And then Karen made her next move, a move that perfectly exemplified suburban entitlement. She launched into a loud, theatrical recounting of every imagined slight, every perceived infraction, every grievance she could conjure against me. Words flung into the air with increasing intensity, drawing neighbors to their windows, some cautiously, some openly recording the unfolding spectacle on their phones. Her son, encouraged by the chaos, tried to climb into my truck, assuming that parental authority granted him an automatic pass. I intercepted him firmly. "No, you are not driving my truck," I stated, calm but absolute. The look on his face was priceless. Shock, frustration, confusion. He clearly wasn't accustomed to being told no, not when his mother was orchestrating a full-on drama in the street. Karen waved her phone again at the officers, voice reaching a dramatic peak. "You have to do something. He's refusing my son." I stepped forward, projecting authority without aggression. "Officers," I said, firm but controlled, "there is no violation here. This is a personal vehicle. No one is entitled to operate it without the owner's consent. This call does not require enforcement. It's a misunderstanding." Karen gasped audibly, as if someone daring to exercise personal boundaries was an alien concept. Her muttering escalated into accusations of favoritism, power abuse, and outright injustice. The officers maintained professionalism, subtly creating a buffer between us. And I couldn't help but marvel at the irony. Police chief, confronted by an entitled HOA Karen over a truck, on her own street. And then it happened, the breaking point. Karen's son made another move, reaching for the door handle again. A desperate attempt to assert control as his mother's rant reached a fever pitch. I stepped forward, deliberately calm, but radiating authority, the kind that doesn't need to raise a hand or yell to be heard. "This ends now," I said, my voice steady, clear, and unwavering. "You will not drive my truck. You will leave my property." Time seemed to pause. Karen froze mid-sentence, her mouth open as if searching for a comeback that would magically override reality. Her son hesitated, fingers hovering over the handle, caught between adolescent arrogance and the sudden realization that not every adult bends to entitlement. The officers exhaled silently, relief mingling with disbelief, fully aware they were witnessing a rare moment, a simple boundary successfully enforced. For a split second, order, sanity, and authority reigned supreme. But I knew, deep down, that this wasn't over. Far from it. HOA, complaints, whispered neighborhood gossip, and the looming threat of escalation hung over my driveway like storm clouds ready to break. And predictably, that storm was about to hit. Karen didn't retreat gracefully. Instead, she stormed to her car with theatrical force, slamming the door with enough impact to rattle the neighborhood. Fingers flying across her phone screen, she started dialing everyone she could think of. The HOA board, neighbors she considered allies, even a few legal advisors she apparently kept on speed dial for emergencies. Her son, now slumped beside her, looked like a balloon deflated by authority, a rare glimpse of humility in his otherwise entitled demeanor. Meanwhile, I tried to take a deep breath, centering myself for the inevitable deluge of complaints, social media posts, and messages that would undoubtedly follow. The officers kept a respectful distance, clearly uncomfortable, but professionally restrained. They understood, as did I, that enforcing a complaint from someone who called the police on the chief over a personal vehicle was anything but routine. Subtle glances passed between us, a silent acknowledgement of the absurdity that had unfolded in the driveway of my suburban street. Within the hour, the fallout began. Texts and messages trickled in from curious neighbors. Screenshots of Karen's social media posts began circulating, each one dramatizing the encounter with increasingly exaggerated language. A few HOA emails landed in my inbox, hinting at potential escalation. According to her narrative, I had been unyielding, abusing my authority, terrorizing the neighborhood, all because I refused to hand a teenager the keys to a truck. Ridiculous? Absolutely. But in HOA politics, perception often trumps reality. And a good story travels faster than the facts. I had a choice: escalate my position as the chief, asserting my authority further, or let the situation settle naturally. I opted for calm. Carefully, I drafted a concise statement for the record. My truck is private property. No laws were broken. All interactions were handled peacefully. I shared it with the officers who filed their report, and sent a copy to the HOA board, ensuring that the record remained clear, factual, and professional, immune to distortion or exaggeration. By mid-afternoon, the immediate storm had passed. Karen had retreated, no doubt plotting her next maneuver, while her son slouched in their driveway, silently coming to terms with the fact that entitlement has limits. Neighbors returned to their routines, some shaking their heads at the spectacle, others quietly congratulating me for handling the situation with authority and restraint. Reflecting later, the chaos revealed an important truth: boundaries matter. Whether you're a police chief or a suburban homeowner, standing firm in the face of absurdity is vital. Calm authority, confident, patient, and shaken by theatrics, can diffuse even the most dramatic confrontations. Karen may have called the cops, but she couldn't manufacture a law that overrides personal property. Rights are built on decency and respect, not drama and entitlement. As for the truck, it remained exactly where I left it, gleaming in the driveway, a silent monument to what is non-negotiable. And I walked away with a story that would be retold in precinct meetings, whispered across neighborhood fences, and shared in HOA warnings for weeks. A surreal collision of entitlement, authority, and the unexpected absurdities that emerge when the two collide. So next time someone tries to push your limits over something as simple as a truck, remember this: calm, clarity, and courage can turn a potential disaster into a story worth telling. Wow, what a wild ride! If you enjoyed this story and want more unbelievable HOA encounters, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a moment. Drop a comment below. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you hand over the truck or stand your ground? And don't forget to smash that like button if you believe boundaries matter. I want to hear your thoughts.